Hi.
No, you have to do it like Uncle Leo.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. So I discovered today, I'm sorry, that's kind of rude.
That's okay.
So I discovered today that it happens to be the 45th anniversary of the release of the Bruce Springsteen album Born to Run, which was kind of the one that really launched him into the stratosphere. You know, I mean, he was a known quantity before that, but the Born to Run album was the one that really just, you know, his career took off after that. And that was around the time that he was on, you know, the cover of Time and Newsweek at the same time, which was a big deal. I am old enough to remember in junior high school, was what we called it back
Right.
then in 1975, we had in the school library, we had both the Time and Newsweek editions with Bruce
You
on the
did.
cover. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But the funny thing is, you know, since we've been playing guitar, I probably about half the songs I've learned to play, and I say learned advisedly. I don't know if I've really learned, but they're probably
can
about half
play.
of them are Bruce Springsteen's. It's like half Bruce Springsteen, half Clash. But and I'm not good at any of them. But
You are.
but the funny thing is that when this album came out, I remember it very vividly because one of my sisters actually went to see him in concert at, I want to say, the International Amphitheater
That's
or
lucky.
someplace like that in Chicago. And then also, you know, I don't know whether she bought the album or somebody else had the album, but that album was like in regular rotation in our house growing up. And I got to tell you, at that time, like in the mid '70s, I didn't quite get it. You know, I'm like, okay, it's not like this sort of, you know, California Laurel Canyon thing that you know, Jackson Browne and the Eagles and all that stuff. And then, you know, and it wasn't like old 60s kind of, I didn't know what to make of it. It was kind of like this East Coast thing that I didn't really get. I got into Bruce much later when, not much later, but a few years later when Darkness on the Edge of Town came out. And that was a much more stripped down, sort of more of a rock album. And it kind of, I was in,
like popular.
yeah, and I was in high school, and you know, it was more of the kind of thing a kid in high school would listen to. So then I started going back and listening to all these earlier records, like Born to Run, and I was like, wow, you know, that's really. Then I got it. Then it was like really, I was really blown
You're
away.
hooked.
But it's hard to imagine that it was 45 years ago. And what's even harder to imagine is that when I saw him the first time was 1981 down in Champaign, where our daughter is now a freshman in college.
Represent.
Yeah, there we go. And I couldn't, at the time, it seemed like Born to Run was in the distant past because The River was the big album in 1981. And it was only 7 years after.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, well, no, I'm sorry. It was only 6 years, a little bit less than 6 years after Born to Run came out. But anyway, the fact is it's a great album. And, you know, almost all the songs on there were written on piano. And you can tell by listening to them that he wrote them on piano. But the opening track, Thunder Road, even though he wrote it on piano, it really translates well to guitar. And so for probably, I don't know, the last year or so, I've been screwing around with it. I'm terrible at it, and I lose my place all the time. And then I curse, and I start over. But I'm just going to screw around with just the very beginning.
Okay.
And I guarantee I'll mess it up. But I already screwed it up. goes from there. That's the part that everybody
That's
sings
good.
along. Everybody sings along to. But anyway, so happy anniversary, I guess, to
Yes.
Born to
Bruce.
Run, and maybe someday when the pandemic is over, we'll see him again.
I know. I should just email him and say, like, just let us know when
Yeah,
you're coming back to
right.
Chicago, because
Right.
we'll be the first ones in line.